first game of the week was Crusaders versus the depleted Brumbies, and the Crusaders got up on this one 35-17, but it was tight for a lot of the game. I think it was a lot closer than we thought. I had one highlight and one highlight only that I wanted to talk about, and that was Rory Scott's right to left pass to Corey Toole, which was absolutely outrageous. I saw DMAC in round 1 or 2 throw this flat cutout face ball to the winger left to right, and it reminded me of that. It was just that good, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, you thought when you saw it, if you didn't run it back, you thought that was a pass from a number 10 or an inside centre or something, because it was just so flat out in front, and it was a bullet, and it was perfect. And I mean, Corey Toole's pretty quick. He doesn't need that much space to get around someone for the try, but the pass is what enabled him to do so. So, yeah, it was incredible from Rory Scott. Some fantastic work. But otherwise, you're right, the game was very close, and it's kind of amazing. I think the commentary was just talking about what could have been if they didn't rest all of their Wallabies. But, yeah, the loss takes the Brumbies, ends the Brumbies' unbeaten run. And, yeah, it was just, I don't know, particularly error-prone night for the Crusaders. Loads of drop ball and whatever. So really blew that shot there. But, yeah, it was a good game nonetheless. So lots of experience for some of those new Brumbies players, or lesser experienced Brumbies players. But yeah, let's move on to the Waratahs and the Chefs. We were talking about it earlier. We were there. It was really good. I mean, I perhaps thought the Chiefs might have blown out this game a little bit more, but it was in the balance with about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to go. The Waratahs had a real resurgence in that second half. And, you know, like, went pretty close to winning it. You really felt like momentum was on their side. And it was just that last Chiefs try that kind of, you know, got away from them. How do you make of the game?
Yeah, I thought the Tars were a hell of a lot better than I thought they were going to be honest. The game did blow out a little bit with that late try from a grubber from Shooter Stevenson to Narrower, which made things look a little too easy. But the Tars defending very, very, very well, and far better than what we've seen so far in this season. It's probably more back to how we saw them playing last year. They just didn't seem to have a way to crack the Chiefs' defense, and they just didn't look like scoring points, really. Obviously, there was the opportunistic try from Gordon, the long intercept, which was a beautiful read, but they needed to find a way to construct more play. They had no possession. They had 39% possession for the game, and they just made so many more tackles. I think 136-76 was the count that we had there, but it was something like 120 at half time. So it must be more than that. Yeah. You know, 17 tackles to Hannigan, 16 to Parecki and Swinton, Walton 15, like huge tackle counts all around. They just weren't able to actually control the game and get the field position. And despite them defending very well, the Chiefs did look the dominant side, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. And it was interesting seeing, so Gatland at 10 and DMAC back to 15, giving Shooter that bit of the rest. DMAC was great at 15, but wasn't exactly, you know, lighting it up. Like you said, I think he took it a little easy on us, even if he didn't hear you guys. But no, it was, great effort from the Tars, and a few learnings there. It was good to see Dylan Page back. I mean, he didn't really get opportunities to light it up, but it was looking good. And I don't know. I mean, I'm still on team Taleni Siu. I want to see him on the field. I mean, Hannigan made a lot of tackles, but yeah, they just need that. They're lacking that punch, as you said. And it seems like in the end of the game, when a few players came off the bench, they seemed to find that. You know, with, I think Lambert came off the bench, a few other players. So it just, I don't know what the formula is there, but it was a good game against the absolute informed top of the table Chiefs. So
yeah, I think, and I saw a stat earlier, like at the end of the round, that said the Tars were like second in the comp for gain line. I think, was it like the Force were first or something ridiculous? And the Tars were second for the percentage of carries over gain line. Like, so they're getting gain line, which obviously Taleni Siu is there for as well, but just not able to actually take the advantage of it.
For sure.
Well,
people that did take advantage of some gain line, mate, they put some points on the board. The Highlanders defeating the Drua 57-24 unexpectedly. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think going into this, I expected the Drua to win. Just the Highlanders have been abysmal most of the season. Granted, they did start the season with losses against the Chiefs, Crusaders, and Hurricanes. It's a hard start to a season, but this one surprised me. How did you see this game?
Yeah, you're right. I thought that the Drua. I was trying to just go back to my tip and make sure I knew what I tipped. I actually do think I tipped the Drua as well. Highlanders' defense has just been so shaky, but they really turned it on, and they had so much disruption. They lost Renton, Dixon, Thomas Umaga Jensen, and Timu all pre-game. Yeah. Then they lost their rookie centre, Jake Tehiwi, in like the 19th minute or something. So pushed Sam Gilbert to centres. And they just didn't seem too phased by it at all. How you can be playing with 20 odd players from your top squad injured and some of your rookies and juniors and still put a 57-point performance out on the board, I just don't know where it came from. Yeah. The only way I can think about it is the Ndrua had a little bit of a mental lapse there and maybe didn't apply themselves in the way they have in the first few rounds. But credit to the Highlanders, they took their opportunities and absolutely pasted them. They've now averaged 50 points in their last 2 games after averaging 14 in the first 3 rounds.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched this one yet, but I think, particularly amazing was losing both your starting centres in the Highlanders and then losing your backup centres as well, and against the likes of Revovo and Vota, who have just been lighting it up. So, yeah, the only way I can see this game having going is that the Highlanders did get some points on the board and kind of just really had the momentum. And the Drua, they don't like to get behind, you know what I mean? Once they get a little bit, the score starts adding up, they do tend to slack off a little bit. So
it's almost like they chase the game and they go back to their old habits of just overplaying their hand. But speaking of that, Revovo could do no wrong. He was on fire.
He is. It's tough now with that. They've got 3 amazing centres. So obviously we know how good Revovo and Vota are from last year and this year. And but we've got Yosefo Marci, who had been lighting it up for the first few weeks until Revovo came back.
He's just something very quiet on the wing as well.
So we'll have to see how that plays out. But next week they're back at home, so a big game from them. But we'll get to that. Continuing through the games this week. Speaking of big scores. The Moana Pacifica at home at Mount Smart Stadium went down 0, the big donut, to 59 against the Hurricanes. Huge. So the Canes now moving themselves up to second on the table. And, mate, they were just relentless. They absolutely just lit it up, were dominant across the park. And, whilst there was a couple of standout performances, I'd have to say Ray Arce and Artie Sevilla, I mean, everyone was chipping in, It was, for me,
Kenny Namolo, just the whole team was on fire.
So, definitely go and watch that game if you haven't, because it's just some awesome play from the Canes. But I wanted to speak about the Moana. The only things there for me was it just seemed like Levi Aumua was the only one who could really create anything and create a lot. He did, whether it was carries, he had some amazing carries, like bouncing people off at will and whatnot. But he also had these just deft touches. Like he put this beautiful crossfield kick for Tima Fainganuku, who almost scored a try. He went and touched. I think he had 3 people knocking him into touch, and his foot just touched. It was very unlucky. But Aumua was just incredible. And I forgot he actually got selected in the All Blacks A, or the All Blacks 15 last year, as a result of how well he's playing. But yeah, he seems to be the only one able to create something for Moana. So I don't know. He just needs some support. But boy, did they miss our boy Tavatava Nawai. It was good to see Tima Fainganuku back. This is his first game, but God, they need Jimmy on the other wing, because he's the guy who can create something out of nothing. So they needed him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought Lodu Anisi came off really early in this one. And I thought Miracle was, again, stand out with every touch. He's just such a phenomenal athlete. And he just seems to be one of those players that can create something out of nothing. And then I also think that Danny Tuala was really missed. They didn't seem to have that same organisation in their backline. So really, really taxing to them, or costing to them to actually rest their players, which I don't think we've really expected out of them. I thought they were just going to try and keep playing their best team. But instead, obviously maybe it is the pressure of World Cup coming up and Samoa and Tonga being a little bit more picky, and Fiji a little bit more picky about how many games their players play. But it cost them in this one for sure.
Yeah, particularly since both, when we talked about the start of the year, both Moana and the Drua had said that last year was getting as many players as possible runs on the board, and this year they were going to go more with a pick and stick formula. They were going to put their best teams on the park. So interesting to see how that evolves, but not as we thought so, I guess. But yeah, let's push on. Next game, an upset. The Rebels 40 defeating the Reds 34. That one was at home in Amy Park, but I haven't had a chance to watch this one either yet. But I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, for me, the headline from this game, from what I've heard, was the old Tongan Scarface, Vailini Ekuasi, the young and massive big back rower who previously from the Blues. had an absolute barnstorming first start for the game. Did you enjoy this one, Harry?
Yeah, I did. I thought this was easily the game of the round. I thought the Rebels and the Reds were both just going at each other, trading blow for blow, and there were just so many big swings in momentum in this match. It was a real joy to watch, and definitely probably the game of the round that I would suggest people, if they want to catch up on a game, this is the one to do it. You mentioned Violoni Ekwasi. He was, I thought, really, really good. Kind of announced himself onto the stage for the competition this week, and I think that number 8 jersey is going to be hard to take off him now that Richard Hardwick is going to be out for an extended period with his big calf injury. So, you know, he made it look very, very easy scoring his try, and he's just such a big athletic runner. He reminds me a little bit of Hoskins to Tutu. So, I mean, hopefully the Rebels will keep him for more than the one season that he's contracted to, and hopefully he actually does grow into Hoskins, because the Wallabies wouldn't mind a player like that at all, would they? The other one, I mean, I feel like we've talked about him every single week, is just Gordon was just exceptional again. He's clearly put himself forward as the front runner of the young tens at the moment. I think his long kicking is exceptional. His contact, he fronts up and puts big hits on. Watching him, he decided just to run it straight off one of the long kicks that didn't quite find touch as well. Like, the guy loves contact. Plus, he has the silky skills, the balls to put the short crossfield kick in when they're in their own 22, and then the tactical kicking game as well. He's exceptional. He's playing so well. I think it's too late for him. You know, everyone's saying on their Twitterverse at the moment, you got to pick Gordon. He's the Wallabies 10. He's the only option. I really genuinely don't think that that's a chance of happening. I think he should definitely be in the squad to actually get around the team, but I just can't see Eddie Jones, who's now so aware of the need for experience and cohesion of bringing in a new 10 in a World Cup cycle where he has a few games to get a hold of what's going on. I just don't see that happening. But yeah, man, I just an absolute player for the future, and can't stop praising how well he's been playing.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I don't think I can. I mean, I always like to go back to the majestic golden mane, the mullet that he has again. But no, I agree. I can't see Eddie putting him in. Eddie likes to take his time with tens. Eddie's happy to try his hand with young fullbacks and wingers and whatever. But with tens, kind of like you look at Marcus Smith with England, he kind of kept him out in the wings for a long time. And I think he will look to Gordon for a play for the future. But yeah, he's bloody exciting, and I love a 10 that likes to get physical. So it's it's just nice having the confidence that he can just run the ball. You know what I mean? When in doubt, just have a crack and see how you go. But no, there was a lot of players stepped up in this game. We saw a bit more of Monty Ioane. He just got a lot more involved, so he kind of had a slow start to the season. I guess by his standards, or what we were kind of expecting, him to just get his hands on the ball all the time. I know that one of your and my concerns about Monty Ioane was typically in the Rebels backline, the wingers have a tough time getting the ball. It just doesn't seem to make it out to them. Like, we look at Korobedi, who doesn't score many tries for the Rebels and whatnot. But yeah, he seemed to certainly get involved in this game. I think he ran for 150 meters and whatnot. So exciting to see him getting into this one. Was there anything else from the Reds that is worth a mention in this game for you?
Yeah, I think Murphy's just finding his way in to actually play off Gordon. I think that's probably the biggest thing for him. He was popping up a lot more in tight. The last one for me was just the controversial tries. There was a Rebels try, which I think was actually the correct call. I think it was Brad Wilkin stripped a ball in a tackle, and it kind of went forwards and ended up in a really good Rebels try, but they called it back for the rip, which went forwards, and that's the laws of the game. Unfortunate, but that's how it is. And I could see that there was a lot of Rebels fans blowing up about that. But then about a minute or two from full time, Tate McDermott darts down the short side from a couple of metres out, scores a try in the corner that would have had James O'Connor kick to win, which would have been just an epic finish to the game, and ended up getting called back because I can't remember which Reds player. It might have been Ryan Smith, but it could have been someone else. Ends up holding the Rebels player who was meant to be defending the blind side, but as Tate had picked up, the defender ran to the open, and then when he realised, he got held back, which was, in my opinion, was pulling him towards the blind side where he should have been standing, and then kind of put his arms like, I couldn't get to Tate because the bloke was holding me illegally at the ruck. And it was so inconsequential. It should never have been picked. It was very, very unlucky. The Reds should have stolen that game, to be honest. I had the opportunity to kick the win to steal that game, and it was a shame that it wasn't given. It was just one of those ones where you don't seeing as many of these pedantic rulings by the TMOs, but this was a bad one.
Yeah, you don't like games decided by a bit of acting. You know what I mean? You like it to be decided by the play on the field. So
yeah.
Oh, well.
Last game of the week was the Blues versus the Western Force. The Blues, again, resting a few players. They got up 30-17. This reminded me of the Blues team, to be honest, that dusted up the Waratahs at the end of last season. They really didn't have their best side out there, but they were able to just do enough to be the dominant force. But yeah, at least the Western Force were able to kind of stay in the game and make a good match of it. So it was quite enjoyable to watch. A little bit disjointed from the Blues, I thought. Radamata Vukinikins, he scored off a big cross kick from Stephen Pera franchise. But the most impressive thing was not only how high he got, but also he kind of caught the ball with one arm and kind of like away from his body and then spun and put it down. It was bloody impressive. It was very, very, very good.
And he jumped to quite a height as well. Like he had quite a fall down to land on the ground. It was
They interviewed him post game. He's like, I'm not the fastest, I'm not the fittest, so it's good that I've at least got some jumps, got some hops. So that's obviously his point of difference.
Yeah, nice. So no, I mean, do you think did the Force look a chance in this game at all? I mean, I know it's a closer scoreline, but
Not really, to be honest with you. They made a match of it, but I don't think they ever looked like they were going to win the match convincingly. I thought the Blues always looked in control, but like I said, it was a tighter match and it was enjoyable to watch and it did keep you interested. I thought Chase Tiatia looked really good. He comes into first or second receiver a lot and creates a lot for the Force, but I would love to see him in the wider channels because he's not really getting to use his running game. He put in this neat little kick on the line where he kind of drew the defender at the last minute, just kind of towed it through for Michael Wells, who scored a try. It just looked so easy. Nelson and I were texting each other during the game, just kind of like, that try is on every single time you're doing line attack because the defender is trying to tackle you. So all you have to do is last second, just pop it through between the two defenders, and there's never going to be a fullback covering. Like, it's impossible to stop. I don't know why it doesn't happen more often. And the only other one that I wanted to mention was Tony Pulu. He was exceptional. Had a blinder, particularly in the first kind of 20 or 30 minutes. He was on fire. And maybe this is probably the best game he's played for the Force. He's been there for a while now, so that's a decent call. But my favourite thing was every single short kickoff, he would fly past the ball because the Blues would set it into their, like a maul. And then every single time he would just pop up on the Blues side of the maul because it hadn't actually been created yet. And the first time he just ripped the ball straight off the player and then went on a run. And the second time they kind of clued up to it and they started blowing up at the ref that he was offside. And they're like, mate, he's allowed to walk around there. Like there was no maul. Like it was just such a great little tactic. And he did it very, very well. It was good to watch.
That's having done your homework right there. But no, I mean, look, the Force wingers have been great. Pulu and Kibarigi. Harry's been blowing up all year. That Manasa Mateli hasn't been getting a run. But I think they've both been really, really good.
They have been, yeah, absolutely.
And my only other point on this was, I think the man of the match was Anton Segner. The Blues just have a whole host of capable back rowers. He had a good shift. I think Cameron Suafoa had a really good shift as well, with some good carries.
He had a few good steals as well.
And we haven't even seen, like, Tane Plumtree's come off the bench once or twice this week. But if you remember from last year, he had a few ripper games as well. So they're just stacked with talent. Akira might be coming back soon. So they've just got so much depth, I think, is why the Blues are going to go really far into the season. But, another win for the Blues on the board, able to rest some players. So well done to them.